Welcome to Carol and Gary's See America Tour. Hello everyone. Here we are leaving Biloxi, Mississippi at 10 o'clock on Monday, November 18th and heading east toward Florida. We have approximately an hour and a half drive to Pensacola. This is the Biloxi Lighthouse as we pass on our way out of town. We have to cross the southern end of Alabama to get to Florida. Here we are coming into Mobile, Alabama. Interstate 10 has a tunnel? Really? This is the George Wallace Tunnel in Mobile. The roof of the tunnel is 40 feet below the surface of the water to allow ships to cross overhead. After we come out of the tunnel, we drive across a long bridge with water on both sides of us. We arrive in Florida, the 33rd state that Carol and I have visited together. Florida became the 27th state in the Union on March 3, 1845. On Tuesday, November 19th, Carol and I decided to take Jasper a drive across Pensacola Bay to see some sand. Unfortunately, as soon as we crossed the bridge, we saw a sign saying that dogs are not allowed on the beaches. I didn't think anyone would mind if we kept Jasper on the boardwalks and piers, but when we tried to walk out on one of the piers, we were stopped and told that Jasper could not go on the piers either. I went ahead and walked out to the end of the pier to take some pictures, while Carol waited in the car with Jasper. When I returned to the car, we drove approximately 20 miles east through Gulf Island National Seashore until we saw a sign saying that dogs were allowed on the beach, so we stopped and let Jasper chase a few birds along the shore while Carol looked for seashells. Returning to the car about an hour later, we continued east until we reached Naval Beach, which is a small village. At the east end of Naval Beach, the road came to an end with a sign pointing to a bridge that would take us north, back across the water to a town called Navarra. When we got to Navarra, I turned west and followed Highway 98 back to Gulf Breeze, and then we crossed Pensacola Bay and returned to our campground. On Wednesday, November 20th, Carol and I visited the Pensacola Lighthouse. Built in 1859, the Pensacola Lighthouse is still an active U.S. Coast Guard aid to navigation. The Pensacola Lighthouse is actually the second lighthouse in the area. The first lighthouse was built in 1824, but by 1850 trees on Santa Rosa Island were said to block the light, so the light was considered to be too dim. In 1852, the newly established Lighthouse Board recommended that a first-class light with a height of no less than 150 feet be built at Pensacola. With funding approved by Congress in 1856, a site was selected 1/2 mile west of the original lighthouse, and work on the tower was completed in 1858. The new tower stood 159 feet tall and was painted white. The base of the tower has a diameter of 30 feet, tapering to a diameter of 15 feet at the top. On January 10, 1861, Florida seceded from the United States. Shortly thereafter, Confederate forces took control of the tower and eventually discontinued the light and removed the lens. Confederate forces evacuated the area on May 9, 1862, allowing Union soldiers to seize control of the lighthouse again. A fourth-order lens was placed in the lantern room, and the tower was lit again on December 20, 1862. The original first-order Fresnel lens was recovered after the Civil War and was reinstalled in the tower's lantern room in 1869. That same year, a new dwelling was built for the lighthouse keeper. The bottom third of the tower remains white to stand out against the trees, but the top portion was painted black to stand out on a cloudy day. This is a partial view of the 177 steps leading to the top of the lighthouse. Each step has a number on it. This was our view from the top of the lighthouse. After coming back down the stairs, we walked down to the beach. On Thursday, November 21st, Carol and I visited the Naval Aviation Museum in Pensacola. The Naval Aviation Museum is a free museum that sits on the edge of Pensacola Naval Air Station. The first aircraft that we saw was the Sikorsky H-3A Sea King. This helicopter was used by Richard Nixon and then Gerald Ford to fly from the south lawn of the White House to nearby Andrews Air Force Base. Stairs allowed us to look inside. Here is the cockpit area. This is the area where the president would sit. Up to 14 passengers could be transported in the H-3A helicopter. Marine One, the helicopter's call sign when transporting the president, always flies in a group with identical helicopters, sometimes as many as 5. One helicopter carries the president while the others serve as decoys for would-be assassins on the ground. Upon takeoff, the helicopter begins shifting in formations to obscure the location of the president. Every Marine One is equipped with state-of-the-art security and technology. Although it is cabled to the ceiling, making it harder to see, this is the AVHC, also known as the Harrier. Originating in Great Britain, the Harrier attracted the interest of the United States Marine Corps in 1966 because of its unique ability to land and take off vertically like a helicopter, enabling it to operate from makeshift airfields near the front lines or small deck amphibious assault vehicles, thereby providing a quick response to the close air support of ground troops. In 1970, the Marine Corps ordered 102 of the Harriers. These aircraft were essentially the same as the British Harrier, but the American avionics, flight control, and weapon systems were changed. Reluctant to have military aircraft manufactured outside of the United States, a licensing agreement was concluded between British Aerospace and McDonnell Douglas for the manufacture of the Harrier II. Testing was so successful that the initial product order of 12 planes was placed before the program was completed and delivered to the Marines in January 1984. Devoid of an afterburner and with deflected jet blasts, the Harrier has a low infrared signature, making it a more difficult target for heat-seeking missiles. One of the most recognizable airplanes in history, owing to its unique inverted gull wing design, the F-4U Corsair, remained in continuous production from 1942 until 1952, with more than 12,500 aircraft built. One of the Navy and Marine Corps' finest fighters, Corsair shot down 2,140 Japanese aircraft during World War II, and in the Korean War a Marine pilot became the first to shoot down a MiG-15 jet while flying a propeller-driven aircraft. The F-4U Corsair was designed around the Pratt & Whitney R2800 engine in a quest to build a fighter plane of unparalleled power and performance. The size of the engine necessitated a long nose, and the aircraft featured inverted gull wings and tall landing gear in order to accommodate its oversized propeller. Among the notable squadrons that flew the airplane was the famed Black Sheep Squadron, commanded by Medal of Honor recipient Major Greg "Pappy" Boyington. I'm going to close out our visit to the Naval Aviation Museum with a picture of an F-18 Hornet, the plane used by the Navy's Flight Demonstration Squadron, the Blue Angels, since 1986. The Naval Aviation Museum easily had 100 helicopters and planes on display, as well as scale models of several aircraft carriers. The museum, if you happen to be in the area, is definitely a must-see. And with that, we will be packing up tomorrow to leave on Monday for Panama City, Florida. If you like this video but have not yet subscribed, please do so to be notified of future videos, and as always, feel free to share with your friends. Thanks for watching and happy Thanksgiving.